I was wanting to talk today about the pros and cons of starting your own bait company and things you need to expect. Um, First off, my name's Austin Stetler, and I'm the owner of Windy Ridge Trapper. We're a small family-owned company that buys fur, and we sell trapping supplies. We make our own trapping supplies. We make trapping lure, trapping bait, and we also obviously make fishing lures, terminal tackle, and soft plastics. Um, Depending on what aspect of the bait industry you're wanting to get in on, it can either be rather difficult or it can be fairly easy, depending on what your budget is and what your time looks like. In 2012, I believe, that's whenever we started making trapping supplies. My dad owned the business, and my whole family has a passion for the outdoors, especially whenever it comes to fishing and trapping. But my father especially has a passion for the trapping side of the industry, so that's kind of what we got into. In 2018, whenever I graduated high school, he was getting a little bit older, and he thought that it was time for him to kind of get out of it, and he gave me the great blessing of taking over the family business. And something that I especially enjoy doing outside of trapping. I really enjoy trapping, but I love fishing. I've always have loved fishing. I love the industry, and it had always been a dream of mine to make and sell my own fishing lures, my own tackle. And in 2018, I finally got my dream. I got my wish. I started making my own tackle. And there are certain things I wish I would have known then that I know now that I didn't. And I'm hoping by making this video, I can kind of help some of you starting to get into the business, understand certain things I didn't know before. One thing you need to understand is what is your target market. All right. Whenever I started making lures, I made terminal tackle. I obviously could not make my own hooks. You have to have heavy machinery for that. And me at the time, being an 18-year-old boy, I didn't have the money to buy those kind of resources. So I started out by making sinkers, jigs, lead-based items. And that's really, if you want to get into a cheaper end of the market, something that's not going to cost you as much money, it's a really, really good idea to start out there because you can get lead just about anywhere. And the equipment that you need to make lead products and the time it takes to make lead products in mass quantities is not near as much as whenever you're making soft plastics or hard plastics or even fishing rods. Um, I can probably make, I mean, I don't even want to put a number. I can make thousands and thousands of jigs or sinkers a day just because once you get your molds going and once you have a good stockpile of clean lead, it just flies. I mean, you just put a 5-gallon bucket full of water beside of you, and you have a clean bucket of lead to your side. You just fill your lead pot up with lead, and you can make jigs as fast as you can open and close your mold. It's really easy. And on the time aspect, that's why making lead products and terminal tackle is so nice. Um, I mean, you're not going to make as much money on the lead side of the market though, because the market is so saturated, and you're going to be competing with Walmart, which has really really good prices. Unfortunately, um, so you have to keep that in the aspect. You're not going to pay as much money up front because you don't have to buy the plastisol, you don't have to buy the colorant, the glitter, and all the molds. But the only thing that you do have to buy, depending on what you want to make, depending on whether you want to make jigs or sinkers, um, whenever I started in 2018, I spent approximately $700, and I got probably about 20 different molds for my lead. And that was very economical for me at the time because I wasn't making very much money. And those molds have done more than paid themselves off because everyone, no matter what kind of fishing that you do, you need sinkers. So if you're looking for an easy part of the market to get into, as long as you're not looking for large margins, that's a really good place to start out. But that wasn't good enough for me, and I'm sure that some of you that's going to be watching this video, that was not good enough for you either. I wanted to expand. You don't ever want to be content with being small. You always want to grow and expand. Now, if you find a way to be very profitable making lead, and that's what you like to do, that's what I would continue to do. It's a good idea to do that. But like I said, in my area, there's so many other things you could be making to make extra money and to expand that I decided that was the right decision for me. Now, this is where the market starts to get extremely saturated and a little bit more competitive. is the soft plastic industry. In this video, we're not going to be talking about rod making and about hard plastics. For one, with the hard plastics, because I don't personally make them and I don't feel like I have the right to give any sort of an education on that. I don't have the tools or means to make those. And we are just starting to get into the process to where we're going to start making our own rods. And once again, even though we are going to start making those and selling those, I don't have the years of knowledge that I have in this to where I feel like I have the right to tell anyone what to do and what not to do. So we're going to get into the soft plastics. Soft plastics, there's more money to be made in soft plastics, especially if you have the time to get good at it and the patience to get good at it. But there's a lot more money that goes into it, depending on the variety of plastics that you want to make. In 2019, we started making our own plastic lures, and I spent well over 7 times as much money on the startup on the soft plastic lures as I did on the lead, because the molds are always more expensive, especially if you get good CNC machine molds. On my first year making soft plastics, we easily put $5,000 in molds and plastic. And to some of you, especially if you have a high budget, that's not a big deal. And if that's not a big deal, that's great. But for me at the time, I was a 19-year-old, and I was building my first house, and I did not have very much extra money laying around, so I just cash flowed all that. And it ended up, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. They have not quite paid for themselves yet. Actually, this year, in 2021, I will probably have just made all my money back on them. But the rewarding aspect of making soft plastic lures is there is nothing better in this world than selling a high quality soft plastic lure and you yourself using it and going out and just slaying the bass with them, or muskie, or whatever you're making for walleye, or whenever you start selling those, and whether it's to your friends or to a local bait shop, and people recognize you and tell you how much that they enjoy your product, there's just not any better feeling in the world than that. But like I was saying, getting into the soft plastic side of things, whenever you're making jigs or sinkers, you only make one kind of. So there's not multiple kinds of lead, unless you're painting your leads. There's not really multiple kinds of lead, and no one really paints their sinkers. The only kind of leads that you would be making that you have to paint would be either jigs or spinner baits or buzz baits, things like that. Whether you decide to do that or not. But whenever you get into the soft plastic side of things, there are so many thousands of different color combinations you can do. Whether you use colorants or dyes, or use flake or dips and things like that. The array that you can make is just absolutely ridiculously out of this world. So the best advice that I could give you whenever it comes to making soft plastics is, unless you are willing to dedicate the time to making them, it would be a really good idea to start out with a base 4 to 6 collars you're going to sell, depending on how many lure varieties you're going to make. Here at Windy Ridge Trapper, we make about 12 to 15 different lure varieties, depending on what people are asking us for. And whenever you get to where you're making 12, 13 different styles of bait, just body styles, and you're making 10 to 15 different collars, especially whenever you get a big order in, if you're not prepared for that, that takes a lot of time. I am actually on a 24-hour binge right now making lures. We're about 1 hour in, and I decided to take a little bit of extra time out of my day and out of my working day so I can make this video, just because I felt like it was the proper time to do that. There's not very much info about making soft plastic lures on YouTube. If this video was helpful or wasn't helpful enough, a really good channel to go look at that I watched a lot whenever I was getting into making my soft plastics is a channel called World's Worst Fishing. He makes some very good in-depth videos, and whether you find what you want to find in this video or not, that's a good channel I would go check out. But if you have the money and the time to invest in this hobby, it's a very rewarding hobby. You'll make a lot of people happy. And something that I didn't realize that you need to realize too is you're going to make a lot of people mad. There are people out there that are major critics and skeptics, and you're going to get almost as much, well, not necessarily almost as much, but close to as much hate as you are positive feedback, because there's a lot of people out there that wish that they could be doing this, and they don't have the time or the patience or the work ethic to be doing this. And I think a lot of it comes down to they're just jealous. They're not happy with the way that things are turning out. And anytime that you make any sort of a product, this isn't just the fishing world. This is because I'm a fur buyer as well, and I get just as much negative media as I do positive media. I have people that if you saw them on the street and they talked about me, they'd probably tell you that I'm the nicest person in the world, that I'll give you good prices, and then you'll find one dude who brought me a whole bunch of greased coons that ain't worth 2 cents a piece. And then I can't look at a man straight in the face and give him 2 pennies for a animal that he put up. And I just told him to keep him because I didn't want to give him that low price. And then they'll tell you that I'm a crook. And that's the same way that it is in fishing. You just have to understand that anytime that you take up any kind of a hobby, especially once you start selling to actual consumers, there's always going to be negative feedback no matter what you're making. So you just need to prepare yourself for that. But another thing that I would keep in mind whenever you're getting into this hobby is if you don't have the time to do it, like I was just saying, I'm just kind of reiterating on this because, like I said, I am literally on a 24-hour binge trying to get caught up on orders right now because that's how far we are backed up. And we've worked, this is not my full-time job, this is a part-time job. I work as a sewer operator in West Virginia, and this is just a part-time job that I take care of. But we've worked 3 5-hour evenings this week, and it's only Thursday. So this is something that if you love to do it and you have time to do it, it's amazing. I don't regret doing it. And I mean, I'm gonna be tired as crap once this 24 hours is over. But at the end of the day, I can look up on my shelf, or I can go to 5 or 6 different bait shops just in my area, and I can see my product hanging up there, and I can feel proud of myself knowing that I made those and that I'm making a good quality product for a very affordable price. And touching on that very affordable price, we kind of touched on that earlier with how you have to compete with Walmart's prices. Whenever you're a fairly new bait company, you're not going to make a pack of Senkos and sell them for $5 to $7 a piece like Gary Yamamoto does. You're just not going to do it because you don't have the street credit that Gary Yamamoto does. You don't have the resources and the machines and the employees to do that. And whenever you're a new bait company, for the first few years, you really essentially have to be okay with taking a loss. If you're not okay with taking a loss, then this is not the business for you. It is. I mean, you would have to be willing to sink 20 to 30 grand in your first year to even hope within the next 2 years to make any money. But the most important thing in this industry is you cannot make junk. If someone picks up a bag of your lures and they're generic looking and they're cruddy and they fall apart and the collars don't look good and it's just an overall bad product, you're not going to get multiple chances with people. I mean, most, especially whenever you get into soft plastics, most people who use soft plastics are pretty avid anglers. Most of your average weekend warriors are not going to use a lot of soft plastics. They're going to go out and they're going to go catfishing. They're going to use a worm and a hook and a sinker, and you're not going to get them. So your main target with soft plastics is more of an avid, hardcore bass angler. And most of them already have a good quality soft plastic that they like, just as we touched on earlier. A lot of people use Gary Yamamoto, there's Strike King, there's Venom, Zoom. There are other products out there that you're competing with. So you have to be willing to take the time and effort to make sure that the quality product that you're putting out is just as good, if not better, than those products that you're competing with. And if you can't do that, then there's no reason to even be doing this because you're just essentially wasting your time. You need to make a good quality product that people are going to like and that the fish are going to bite on. And that's another good point to get onto is packaging. No matter how good that your bait catches fish, you have to have good packaging because you're not selling your bait to fish, you're selling your bait to people. And no matter how good your bait looks, you need to have a good presentable package to put that in. We're currently, within the next few months, getting ready to do a wire transfer to Hong Kong to get our own custom bags made. That's something that I wish we would have done a little bit earlier. I feel like we could have picked up some more business, but I focused more on the aspect of making a quality lure early than I did with high quality bags. Was that the right decision? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if sales will be better. I'm not sure if sales will be worse. But in our area of West Virginia in the Mid-Ohio Valley, we're known for making very high quality products that catch good fish as long as you fish them correctly. But right now, all the way that we might make our bags, there's a company in California called Sackett Co. They make custom bags and they also make plain poly bags. We invested so much money in high quality plastic and molds and glitter and colorant at first that we decided it was not the proper time to buy custom bags yet. So all we did was we bought 10,000 bags from Sackett Co. Just some poly bags, some poly bait bags, and we got with the company. I'm not sure. That was my brother that orders those. I'm not sure what the bait company is. If I can figure out, I'll put a link in the description. But we've got custom stickers made that we put on top of our bags. Just the company logo is all that it is. And then I bought a Dymo label writer so that we can make our own UPC labels, because most good businesses that you're going to sell to need a barcode. They need a UPC label so that they can keep inventory on your product. And unless you're selling to a small mom and pop shop that just puts price tag stickers on their baits, which there's not very many of those left anymore, you need to have a good way to make a barcode label for your sticker. Just like if you go to Walmart and you pick up a bag of Gary Amato or Zoom, and you look in the bottom right corner of that bag, and it's going to have the name of the bait, the color of the bait, and then it'll have that little barcode. We make that same thing with our Dymo. So there's a lot more that goes into making a good quality product than pouring some plastic. You have to have good quality bags that your plastics aren't going to eat up, that they're not going to deteriorate in. You have to have some way of making UPCs for those bags. And if you're not going to get customly embroidered bags, you have to have a way to get stickers for those bags, because you can't just stick them in a Ziploc bag and give them to a store. It's just not the way that works. You want people to be able to look at your bag of Senkos or your bag of trick worms or whatever it is you're selling, and your company name has to be right there so that they know who they're getting it from, so that in the future they can remember that if they like that product, that they can get it from the same people. But I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, just leave me one down below. I'm going to try to be making regular videos as we're growing, so you can follow us with your progress. And any other small bait companies out there, just keep on doing it. Just keep on keeping on, dude. It's tough. It's tough at first, but if you put in the time and the work, you'll get where you want to be. Thanks for coming out today.